Hello, everybody. I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, and I'm here to bring you the forecast or report for the Taurus new moon that is coming up on May the 7th. But before I do, I'm Louise Eddington of the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. I'm a wisdom weaver, and I should change this to May. Change it over. Whoa, there's May. Wow, look at that. She's doing that. That's the Pope's kind of thing. So, there's interesting. But anyway, soak up that. Okay. What a month April was. But now we're moving into May. Now, I know it's all very tiring. April was just like off the charts. And that will be the most chaotic, crazy, full of possibilities month of the year. But that doesn't mean we're like done. We are in a time of just paradigm shifting energies. And I know it's all very tiring, and somebody says, I'm ready for a break. I get those comments all the time. Well, we don't have a lot of say in the matter. So from my perspective, it's how we respond to these energies. Okay. Anyway, before we dive in and look at the astrology, I do want to share a card that I pulled for it. I'm trying a different thing because when I hold a card up to my webcam, I try and hold it close so you can see it clearly. And then my camera goes fuzzy when it has trouble focusing after I pull the card away. So I'm going to share it differently from now on. I did look into a webcam and I have a good webcam, highly recommended one. But I looked into a lot of webcams and the only one I could find that was said to focus really fast the way I would want it to if I stuck a card right in front of it was rather expensive. So I'm not getting that. We are keeping with this one. So in future, I'm pulling the card beforehand and taking a photograph of it. So this is the card I pulled for the Taurus new moon on May the 7th. And that Taurus new moon is at 18 degrees of Taurus, which is actually a 1 + 8, which is a 9. And I pulled the 9 of Wands from the Tridevia deck. And just so you know, that's spelled Tridevia deck. And there is a link in the description for with a discount code if you want to buy yourself that tarot deck. So this is the 9 of Wands reversed. So just, check out some of the imagery. There's the moon. There's when it's reversed, the flames are going down. This is the wand. We're pulling it down. And this is going from Earth to the sky and to the planets, if you see there. So to my mind, that means kind of just let go and connect with the cosmos. But let's see what the card itself or the book has to say with this deck. So this says, working towards your goals seems to be taking way too much of your energy. You lack motivation and feel like life is all work and no play. Even though you might feel overwhelmed, keep going as your manifestation is just around the corner. Change your focus and remember why you started, which will give you the push to move forward. There's no time for fear. And the affirmation with this card is, I am motivated and determined to reach my goals. And now determination is such a Taurian word. They're very, or Taurus energy, I should say, because this is not about Taurus suns. But Taurus energy is very practical. very stable, very rooted, often described as plodding, but I see it more as steady, very reliable, steady, keeps going. If you think of Taurus and the bull, the symbol, bulls are kind of quite bullheaded and will just keep pushing and pushing forward. But Taurus really is also about manifestation. It's one of Venus' signs, it's Venus' earthly sign, and it is about what we desire, and it is about our earthly desires and our senses. It's often said that the key phrase for Taurus is I have, because Taurus does like possessions, they like their things, but all the Taurus in my life are not materialistic. They're not, they don't hoard generally, at least, you know. They are more interested in things that fill their senses. Good food, good, nice objects that make them feel good, rather than lots of objects. And so, you know, I actually I sense in some ways more for Taurus, because it is about connecting with those senses and getting very, very rooted in who you are. And if you think about this full moon, it's coming on the back of the Aries eclipse that was on April the 8th, which was huge. And it's close to Jupiter Uranus, who had their once in almost 14-year conjunction on April the 20th. So let's have a look at the chart. Okay, so I have too many windows open, so I might just need to find my chart first of all. There it is. I want to end the meeting. Nearly ended that. Whoa, that would not have been good. All right, so let's look at the chart, and I've highlighted a few things that I'm going to talk about. Feel free to screenshot if you want the chart. I'm going to leave it up for a minute while I go around and talk a little bit about what I'll be talking about. Well, first, here is the new moon, 18 degrees of Taurus. I'll talk about what that number means, but you can see that this is conjunct Uranus. Uranus is now at the master number, 22 degrees, bringing some radical changes, and there's more to come that I'll be talking about in my Gemini Venus Star Point webinar. That's I'm doing the webinar on May the 1st. It will be available to buy afterwards as a download, but you know, this is this is connected with the radical change we've got coming. So yes, we do have some more change coming. Not as intense as April, but these things unfold over time. So anyway, I'm going to say this is also still conjunct Jupiter. So Jupiter is in Taurus. Jupiter has just met Uranus, which is usually a very awakening kind of conjunction. I did a whole video on that. It's kind of almost time to like wakey, wake up to what you value. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. I already mentioned that Taurus is Venus ruled, and here is Venus in her own sign. Okay, Venus moves into the sign of Taurus on April the 29th. I'm recording this on the 22nd of April. And so Venus at this point is actually under the beams of the sun. She is almost at 11 degrees. So she's, you know, well under the beams of the sun by now, just over 7 degrees apart on the other side of the sun from our perspective in her underworld journey. And in her underworld journey, when she's on the far side of the sun, it always feels to me like the planet herself is doing her healing and storing up what she needs to know for the next part of her cycle before bringing it down to Earth as evening star over the next 9.5 months. But she's in her own sign. So this is a real fabulous gathering in the sign of Taurus. I'll talk more about it in a minute. I highlighted Hecate over here, still in Leo, the goddess of the crossroads, the keeper of the keys to the three realms, the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world. In other words, mind, body, and spirit. And so that's kind of resonating. And I'll talk a little bit about what the goddess of the crossroads is telling us when I just give an overview. I've also highlighted Black Moon Lilith, who has been hovering around this degree of Virgo for a while, and Ceres. Ceres was square the April 8th eclipse, and now these three are forming a lovely Earth grand trine to the new moon and Uranus. And this is kind of saying you can do this, you can build, you can create. More on that later. Couple of other things I'm going to talk about are Sedna. Sedna moved into, or moves into at this point, into Gemini on April the 27th. Finally, she's not going back to Taurus ever again. And she has been moving in and out of Gemini a little bit over the last couple of years, but now she's in Gemini for the next quite a lot of years, because Sedna has an 11,408-year orbit. So we are still going to be experiencing change. Sedna was last here, last leaving Taurus and moving into Gemini at the end of the great ice ages, when people became farmers and started their settlements after they left being just hunter-gatherers. It was a long transition, of course, but the way humans lived on Earth shifted when the last time Sedna was here in a very big way. That's when we entered the Paleolithic eras, all these, Neolithic era and Stone Ages, and started making tools and started farming and all those kind of things. So that's one big thing. Sedna is also kind of in this quincunx aspect to Haumea, the creatrix of birth, and Sedna and Pluto are heading towards an air grand trine, because Pluto is now retrograde. Pluto stations direct on May the 2nd. So these are speaking to themselves. Okay, Sedna are speaking to each other, not. So I'll talk more about what that means as well. Other couple of things I did want to mention as I'm recording this on the 22nd. I'll probably release it on the 24th in a couple of days' time. But Mars moved into the sign of Aries on April the 30th. And Venus, I've already mentioned she's in Taurus, but she entered the sign of Taurus on April the 29th. Now, those two shifts of sign are significant because Mars, Aries is Mars sign, Taurus is Venus sign. So those two are in domicile in their home signs. So this is a very strong new moon. But, you know, it's a strong new moon in good ways, mostly, I think. I think there's still could be some kind of ahas and shocks and discord and disruption bringing the shifts that we're coming. But, you know, often we need a bit of a shake-up to get some change. All right, so before I talk about all of that and the aspects, I want to say this is an 18-degree new moon. 18 in numerology is really about self-belief, positive energy, can be used for great success in illumination and enlightenment. In many spiritual traditions, it's seen as a number that bridges the material world and the spiritual one, which is the path we are on collectively. And it also symbolizes balance and financial abundance. And if you think about the 18, it's got the independence and assertion of the number 1, coupled with the strength and energy of the powerful number 8. And so, and we're in an 8-year. And 8 carries the vibration of manifesting abundance and stepping into personal inner strength. And that's what this 18 really means overall. If you add up, of course, the 1 plus 8, it also makes a 9, which is endings. So, you know, it's the last number 9, but 9 is also the number of the universal spiritual laws and universal love. It's kind of, we've reached the end, and this is about spiritual enlightenment and spiritual awakening. But 9 also resonates with learning to say no and with creative abilities and so on. Okay, so, you know, I hope you're getting the idea that this is very, very powerful. Okay, so let me just go back to the chart. I'm not going to share it again. I'm just going to talk to you. So as I mentioned, this new moon has the moon and the sun, Venus, Jupiter and Uranus, all in the sign of Taurus. And earlier that day, the same day, May the 7th, the moon meets Venus, which is always another kind of gate in the shift. Now, to my mind, having all of these together in the sign of Taurus it brings me back to my word of the year, rerouted in really what we want to create, the kind of world we want to create, the kind of world we want to, or the kind of being we want to be in the world, how we want to connect with the world, with all of our senses. This is a real kind of, it's a new moon, but it's a real kind of new beginning, a kind of shake up about Earth. And I'm recording this on Earth Day. And as I record this on Earth Day 2024, I am hoping we reach a point where we don't need a day for Earth, when we realize that we are connected intimately with the Earth, with every one of our senses. And I do believe we are. So that's the big radical shakeup, okay, already going on. Now, I mentioned that this new moon is widely square Hecate, the keys to the mind, body, and spirit. Hecate is in the sign of Leo, and this is harking us back to the Venus retrograde last year, where the star point was at 20 Leo on August the 13th. And whilst this is not exactly square that star point, we are moving into this fixed kind of square energy gradually, slowly, that's saying we can really kind of create more stability. We can create more order, if you like, out of this postmodern chaos and breakdown that we've been in the middle of. Now then, there's the Earth Grand Trine to Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, who's saying, you know, that there's no more. We're not having this kind of shaming and keeping down of, for want of a better word, the divine feminine or their priestess energy. I have lots of thoughts around that, as you probably guessed, because I always do, but I'm not going to go into all of them. But, you know, this is saying in order to reach wholeness, we have to kind of examine and analyze those elements of shame and vulnerability, where we've felt shame, where we've been shamed, where we've been pariahed in the world, so that we can let go of all this trauma and heal. And then we've got the Ceres in Capricorn, And series is about our met and unmet needs. And in the sign of Capricorn, I'm going to say that she is really having a look at the structures that we live under and the structures we were born into, and examining how that they don't meet our needs at all. You know, it's like I look at the life was brought up in, and I look at the environment I was brought up in, and it did not support me as a woman. But I would say this is not just about women. I would say it doesn't support anybody, because men had to be men when, you know, couldn't express their feelings and all that kind of energy. So there's a lot of this generational kind of control that's being let go of, and saying, you know, we have to step into this more rooted, embodied, connected, sensual kind of energy that's and bury those roots deep, so that we are all connected by that wood wide web of network that goes under, that talks to the trees. We're part of that too, you know, we're all connected to each other, and it's time we kind of came down to earth, to our humanness, and started that real connection. Oh, anyway. And then Mars has moved into Aries and is heading towards all the eclipse energy. Mars has been softened. His jets have been cooled. And Mars is realizing that he's more guardian, more spiritual warrior than angry, fighty kind of warrior. People are starting to talk to each other, and I really do see it happening slowly, very slowly, but you have to kind of look for the good, right? And then we've got Pluto and Haumea and Sedna, all at the beginning of the signs. Now, we've also got Uranus and Neptune and Saturn changing signs over the next year or so. And all these outer planets are going to start speaking to each other. I'm not going to look ahead because it does fry brains. I know that Rick Levine and Steve Judd did a live stream together, and they looked ahead at some of this. I don't know if they included Haumea, but you know, all these sign changes of these very slow moving objects are speaking to each other. Haumea was the first to fully change signs. She's that creatrix who gives birth from every part of her body, and she was the mother of Pele and the goddess of volcanoes and so on. She was a very earthy creation goddess, but she gave birth from every part of her body, and then she could regenerate and be younger again to keep birthing and creating. And this is that sense of renewal and rebirth that we are going through. Pluto, most people are aware that Pluto has moved from Capricorn into Aquarius, but will dip back into Capricorn from September to November this year, just to tidy up a few things. But that's another big planetary sign change. And then Sedna, 11,400 years, is changing signs and is not going back into Taurus. So one by one, over the next couple of years, all these big paradigm shifting outer planetary energies that are big energies of change are changing signs. So whilst you might not feel this shift into Sedna that's showing up here very too much personally, you will start to notice that massive, massive change is coming. And I've been saying it for a while. I've never seen anything like it. Rick Levine on their live stream said, you know, this is, or was it Steve Judd? One of them said they've never seen anything like it either. And they've been practicing astrology longer than I have. This is nothing like we've seen before in human history. We are becoming whatever, new humans, new ways of working with the earth, new ways of working with each other. We're realizing that we live in a quantum world of wave and particle, or materialistic world, which is very Taurus and very and scientific materialism, but also then this scientific spiritualism that's kind of really raising its head and realizing we can't have one without the other. We really are creating a new story of the world. It's such amazing times. But this new moon is more rooted. 8 is a very harmonious number, if you think of that. It's the number of infinity on its side. It's perfectly balanced. It's about strength. It's about abundance in all ways. For want of better terms, I'm going to say we've got Venus and Jupiter involved in this new moon, and they are both the benefics. So this has a generally positive vibe overall. Uranus, the Lord of lightning bolts, is saying, come on, we are changing, radical change, radical change. And sometimes that means change your perspectives. So it's, and Taurus is, to my mind, the most earthly of signs. So this to me speaks of literally a new earth in so many ways. All right, I am going to go to the symbols. I'm going to read them in a second, but before I do, if you would subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, maybe check out my Substack as well. There's a link to that where I write free daily energy updates and other things. And let's read the symbols. So I'm going to read the Chandra symbols first because the Sabian symbol is rather juicy. So I'm saving that one till last. So we're on 18 degrees Taurus for the new moon. So we always go up to Taurus 19. Now, the Omega symbol from John Sandbach is a bottle of gold dust gathered from many places over many years. And he says this is a manifesting a responsible symbol. He says the degree angel is Veu El, which is happiness, elevation, and grandeur. So you can feel that sense of abundance coming in all ways, right? So he says you understand the value of little things and of how even the seemingly most insignificant thing can reflect cosmic truth. This causes you to be able to learn from almost anything. Your powers of observation are very great, for something in you knows how to seek out and find that which is most valuable in a situation. All you need to do is continue on with this, and in time, it can lead you to great success. The Chandra symbol is a really interesting one. It's a crown turned into goat horns. The crown is a socially conferred symbol of power, whereas the goat horns are power that is innate, growing out of the head rather than something that is placed on the head. And so this degree wants to attain to the real thing, which is its spiritual earthly self. It can be very resistive of guidance as well as suspicious of the approval of others, and might at times actually reject outer support for its intent on seeking its own true power in its own way, its inner gold found gradually over time. This degree has its own strong agenda, and even though some may think it wrong or misguided, it must do what it must do and in its own way. Now, I just thought, because goat horns, I was like, what does the goat really kind of mean esoterically and symbolically? And there's several things. The goat is said to mean nourishment, sexual vitality, fertility, aspiration, strength, and resilience. But it's also said to represent the devil and spiritual sacrifice, which isn't that really kind of interesting? in Christianity, the goat has been a symbol of sacrifice, but also demonic forces, wicked men, oppressors, and Satan. The Bible depicts goats as deceitful, cunning, and satanic. Well, there we go again, with the patriarchy putting women down. Now, the goat is the symbol in the Thoth Tarot, or the Thoth Tarot, which is one of my favorite decks, of the Devil card, which is the Capricorn card. And that, the reading I like for that is by Angelis Arian. She says this is about laughing at what bedevils us. It's almost like just laugh at kind of these structures and things and go, your day is done. It's time to kind of move on, time to create this new paradigm we're moving into. Anyway, I just thought they were nice asides. All right, last thing, I've saved the Sabian symbol for Taurus 19 is a newly formed continent. And James Burgess says this is about pure receptivity. He says, when the mind is open, then spirit can enter. He says, pure receptivity that sponsors spiritual breakthrough. A mind that is free of the constriction of staunch belief and moralistic attitudes is free to be spontaneous. Then it's responsive to unconscious upwellings of inspiration, creating new thoughts out of which new realities can emerge and rise up. Now, I also do want to go and read Dane R's interpretation of this. So a new continent, again, rising out of the ocean. He says this is the surge of new potentiality after the crisis. What did I say? We have been in such a crossroads crisis time, and we are feeling this surge of potential. He says this symbol need hardly be commented on. When the mind has been emptied and light has been called upon to purify the consciousness, freed from its attachment and contaminations, a new release of life can emerge out of the infinite ocean of potentiality, the virgin space. What will it be used for? And he said this is the potential to operate in unconstrained spontaneity. This means to have reached a state in which the conscious, rational ego is no longer a controlling factor. Now, that's an interesting little bit because, you know, we're not letting go of science or the rational, but we are having the irrational and the intuitive side come up to match the materialistic, rational side. It's happening in science, it's happening in every field, everywhere. So it's a powerful new moon. Really lean into this one. You know, this is a good one, even though there's still quite a bit of change going on as well. And also Pluto's turning retrograde on, May the 2nd, 5 days before the new moon. And Pluto stations tend to really kind of churn things up and transform. But we're moving into retrograde season where all the outer planets one by one go retrograde. So it's a normal way of a normal cycle, shall we say. All right, happy new moon, Taurus. See you next time.